Brian, K1BML. For those of you who don't know me and those of you who are watching the YouTube channel, thank you very much, KC1SDL, for providing this for us. So I'm the president of the CMARA Amateur Radio Club, and tonight I'm giving a presentation, which took me a little time because I thought about what I should actually give the presentation on. And I'm not going to explain to you how 2-meter and 440 work. I'm going to explain to you what I love about my handhelds and my addiction with them. So, as most of you know, handhelds are my thing in the hobby, which I enjoy, and it's my fun and my addiction. Started off with a Baofeng UV5R that was given to me as a gift before I got my license to listen to ham radio so I could learn the etiquette and all that. And I'm pretty sure that's where it went downhill from there. After getting my license on December 24th, 2015, I bought a couple handhelds off of Amazon. And then from those couple handhelds, a couple more and a couple more. And before I knew it, they were multiplying like Catholic rabbits in my house. So I, at my peak, had over 200 handhelds, which a lot of you know I had to sell some just to make room in my closet for my clothes, which is a horrible problem to have if you really love handhelds. So needless to say, my collection is still well above 100, and I'm still very much into handhelds, but due to the fact of my son and the need for space, I've put the buying of handhelds on a slow tilt. So let me explain to you which are some of my favorites, which some I love, which are some that I think that you should probably not get, and which are some that I would recommend to anyone because that's what I love. So we'll start off with the wonderful cheap things that everyone sees around on Amazon, which a lot of new hams are getting involved in. And this is the Baofeng UV5R. Well, this is actually the BF8 HP, which is the 8-watt version of the 5-watt UV5R. It's basically just a Chinese radio. You can get them cheap on Amazon. I think at the lowest they were $20. Now they've gone up a little more, only because they're illegal technically in the United States. And any of you, they're not Part 97, so a lot of them aren't. And any of you who've been watching the news lately know that when the Capitol was raided, that these were the radios of choice for a lot of the people that were in there on communications, which I'm sure all of you saw that wonderful notification from the FCC letting us ham radio operators know not to commit or try to facilitate illegal crimes using ham radio. So the Baofeng UV5R is one of the most common ones that's out there these days because it's very cheap and easy for people to get in the hobby. I don't knock these radios because this is what got me into the hobby. However, while they are great for the price, and if you drop it for $20 back then, you could throw it away and really not worry about it at all. The receive on these are pretty spotty, depending on the antenna. The transmission is, I would say, not the best, but it's definitely not the worst either. Very open on the face for this, so a lot of interference, a lot of spots, spurious transmissions, and overall, it is definitely not. This feels more like a toy when you hold it, as opposed to your Yaesus and your Kenwoods and even your Alincos. It still feels very light, but again, for emergency communications purposes and to get people into the hobby for the money, this is a very cheap, inexpensive way to get involved into the hobby, and it got me in. This is one of my favorites, actually. As cheap as it is, and as difficult as these are to program, as I've said, if you can program a Baofeng radio by hand, every other radio is simple after that. So cheap, easy, you drop it, you break it, no big deal. Back onto my favorites now. Yaesu FT60. This is a radio that lets you know you're holding a radio. This is a 2-meter 440 radio with wideband receive. You can cover all the ranges up to 900 megahertz on listening. These can be modded to go out of band, but I would not do that because this is my baby right here. I have 4 of these, and I do not let anything happen to these. I use these, this specific radio right here, I've used 3 years in a row now at the Boston Marathon. And until this radio dies, this will be the radio that I use with me every single day. When I go places, things I do, this is my go-to radio right here. The accessories for it, I always have a car charger. I have my backup AA battery. and I always carry an extra battery as well. The range for these, if they still make them anymore, if you can find them, because I know they've upgraded, it was $149.99 when I was buying them. So if you can find them now, I'm sure they're probably going to be a little cheaper and or a little more expensive, depending on how much someone loves it and doesn't want to let it go. But as for a 2-meter 440 radio, this, in my opinion, is a workhorse. It's phenomenal. I've had this in the rain, the snow, cold, the heat, and this has not failed me yet. Sand, I've taken this riding on the four-wheelers in the dirt. Nothing gets in this bad boy. I love this radio. I know a couple people in the club have it, and I'm sure they can attest to it as well. It's just a workhorse.
Can I
Also
break
has
in?
wires. Go ahead, Jim.
Greg, is there a way so that we can put Brian so that he has a bigger screen so that we can make out what he's showing us better?
Yeah, well, the way to do that is to change from gallery view to speaker view, and then when Brian talks, he will occupy your entire screen.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll try and hold the radios a little closer too, if that helps. Is that a little better? Okay. So that's my Yaesu FT60. Also has the wires capability, which anyone who's talked on the W1BRM repeater knows. You can tell as soon as someone with wires keys up. That wonderful distinct beep in the beginning before they are actually talking, which has a little biohazard symbol on it. Let's see, which is right there next on top of the 0. So if you ever hear anyone with a beep before they actually start transmitting, they have their wires feature turned on, which you always hear someone tell everyone to turn it off. So that is my number 1 go-to. My number 2 would be my Yaesu VX6R. And if you can't tell, I'm a Yaesu fan. So my Yaesu VX6R would be my second go-to. This is a tri-band radio, 2-meter 440 and 220. Does 5 watts on 2-meter, 4 watts on 440, and then about 1.5 watts on 220, of course, with the appropriate antenna. Wideband receive as well, and this one is technically supposed to be waterproof. Now, I have not dunked this in the water yet, but I did watch a great video of someone, when they were first coming out with these, they had it in a bowl of water, just sitting in the bowl of water, receiving, took it out, transmitted, worked fine. So I'm not brave enough to try that, but anyone who has one and wants to go, feel free to do it and let me know if it works out. And if it doesn't, I'll know not to try it. But that is my second go-to favorite. I also have the extended battery on this one, which is a 2,000 milliamp battery. Thing is about this big though, and in order to use it, you have to actually take off the back because of the size of the battery. And of course I have my AAAs for it, which anyone who uses the AAAs knows that you don't really get the full 5 watts on 2-meter for it because the voltage just isn't there. So second go-to. On the other end of the spectrum, we have my boat anchors, my babies. Some of these radios are older than me, and some of them work better than I do. So this is the IC2AT, which Jerry was talking about his lonely soldier there earlier before the meeting started. I have many of these, and Jim, you were actually with me when I was telling the other club when I gave the presentation, when I bought that one for $5 up at Nearfest and turned it on and it worked and it was amazing. We were talking simplex that day. So my little gems for $5. I have an amazing amount of charges. I think I have more charges for these than I actually have radios too, which I don't know how that happened, but I did. And thanks to Sandy and N1FSK, I have an IC2AT with the dip chips in it that Sandy put in for it and was gracious enough to hand over to me for my collection. So Sandy, thank you very much for that one. Again, some of these are just old and they just work great. The I2AT, straight simplex, did not have the dip set. So like I said, you can't use repeaters on it. Had the wheels up here, which I leave them all on 9.7, and I'm very neurotic about that, so I can't do it right now without putting it back. And again, some of these are just solid radios. You hold this, you know you're holding the radio as opposed to the Baofeng toy. Let's see. And don't worry, I'm going to show you what looks like a New York skyline of my ham radios over here, my handheld. So we'll get to that. Next is another backup radio that I bring to the marathons with me. Just a 440 radio. They sell them in 2-meter radios as well. It's your basic, have to program 16-channel ham radio, business band type stuff. This one's a Hi-Tar HYT. I was given these as a gift, and these work out very well as backup for the marathon. usually have the earpiece in with this one while I'm listening, and then I transmit again on my FT60. So listen on this one, transmit on this one. Worked out very well so far for the marathons, haven't had a problem yet. And then Dan, K1RAU, my Anytone, the 686, 2 meter 440 digital and analog. Very nice radio. Do not ask me how to program DMR or digital radio. I cannot do it. It's like speaking a different language. I've done it one time, and I think that'll probably be the last time I ever do it again. This radio is programmed, and I'm not changing anything. Jim, I can see you laughing over there. No. So we have Jim, who's the DMR Google, and then we have Gil, who's the Google. He's the Google guru. We got a wonderful club full of members here. But yes, I will never program one of these again on DMR. However, it is very fun. DMR is just not my thing. I'm more of an analog type person, but contact Jim, M1EKO, should anyone need any DMR programming. Yeah, I see you shaking your head, Jim. This is another one. You guys remember NE1R, Tom? Tom gave me 2 of these probably about 4 years ago at one of the IHOP breakfasts for the DMR group. And these are just Motorola MT1000s. These are programmed for a bunch of the repeaters around here. Nickel cadmium battery. And it looks like someone's talking on 9.7 as we speak. But this thing, again, this probably weighs 2.5 pounds. I mean, this radio right here, you could knock someone out if you hit them with it. And this thing is just absolutely phenomenal. Has not let me down yet. And the battery on it, should you go to buy a new one today, are about $40 to $50. So it's a very expensive battery for a very old radio that you need a DOS system to program. So, but I do love this radio, and it is one of my favorites. All right, with that being said, now I'm going to try and get some good lighting over here so I can just give you a nice, wonderful look here at some of my handhelds that I have that you are not even allowed to touch. So I don't let anyone touch them. Let me see if I can get a good light here. So they sit up here on my shelf. And again, no one touches them because these are my babies. So I apologize for the shoddy lighting, but so just looking in the back here, we have the IC2AT, Radio Shacks, Kenwoods, ICOM O2AT. Let's see, where's my 2G? There's my 2GAT. Let's see, my ICOMs, Kenwoods. And yes, that is dust on them because no one touches them again. My EF Johnson over here, that's a P25 radio. Old Kenwood 2 meters, Kenwood 2 meters, Yaesu 2 meters, Yaesu 440s, VX5R 6G, excuse me, 8G, my Linko DJC5 credit card radio. That is one of my favorites. I bought that. That was actually one of my first handhelds that I bought up at the Framingham Fleet.
I think he moved right out of cellular connection.
I lost him. I lost him too.
You guys have me here?
Yeah, we got
back.
you now, Brian.
Okay, sorry. Little guy came in the room. Buddy, you have to go out, okay? Please, Dad's giving a presentation, okay? All right, in a little bit. Gotta love the little guy, right? So my Alinco DJC5, turning it on. And there's Herb. All right, my Alinco DJC5. Love that little radio, paid $20 for it. I have a lot of radios that do a lot of different things. 2 meter 440 digital, analog. Some have wires, my APRS, GPRS. The thing I love about handhelds is that they're accessible. There's different ways of charging them. For emergency communications, which is why I got into the hobby, which is what I love about ham radio, handhelds go everywhere. You could have a 5-watt mobile transceiver, or you could have a 5-watt handheld transceiver. 5 watts is 5 watts. As we all know, if you have a crappy antenna and you're pushing 5 watts out of it, you're not going to get very much. If you have a good antenna and you're pushing 5 watts, Greg, as you know, QRP, you can go all around the world. So it all depends on the antenna, but for emergency communication wise, I am a big fan of handhelds.
Hey, Brian, I got a question for you.
Go for it, Craig.
Yeah, so I didn't see it, but I think before the ICOM 2ATs came out, which was the first sort of, synthesized HT that had the thumb wheels on it, there were a few HTs that had crystals. Do you by any chance have one that was made by Wilson?
I do not. The only thing I have that actually takes crystals for a handheld would be this. Let's try and get it off here. CB handheld, which would be this. I don't know if any of you guys remember any of these.
Yep.
These are when people were waiting for their numbers. So here's my realistic 1 watt, 2 channels. I believe the crystals I have in here now for channel 3 and channel 9. But this is the only thing I have that actually take crystals for handhelds.
Yeah, the old Wilson was about that same size too.
There was a Heathkit HW 2021 which had 5 crystals that would allow you to get on 2 meters.
Oh, I remember that, Tom. Yeah.
And there was also the Drake TR22C. That wasn't really a handheld.
Yeah, should any of you have any of those handhelds you don't want, feel free to put them in the mail or give me a call. I'll come pick them up at a safe distance and give them a good home. And if not, you guys enjoy them. But yes, no, Greg, I don't have every handheld. I would love to. That would be my dream. But I got to say, the ones I do have, I am very happy about. Like I said, some of the older ones I find work much better. In an emergency, if I had to grab just one radio, it would be my FT60. I would not even bat an eye against it. That would be the first one I would grab. Second up would be my VX6R. Now, with the emergency communications aspect of it, again, like you all know, I have many handhelds. So this is just one of my this is my Yaesu emergency communication kit. I have a Baofeng one, and then I have a couple mixed ones of just mixed everything. So let's see, how can I do this in the best way? So as I open this, you'll notice I have inside here, I have a VX3R. Inside the mix back here, sorry, up here, VX3R. Then I have my VX170 and my VX177, my 2 meter and my 440. Another Yaesu FT60, because again, this is my workhorse. And then my VX5R, which is 2 meter, 440, and 6 meter. So I like to think that I have everything covered. And the reason why I don't have a 220 radio in here is because my VX6R and my FT60 go everywhere with me that this kit goes. So this kit usually sits in my truck, and then my FT60 and my VX6R, both of these usually sit right in the front with me. And if I get out of the truck to go somewhere that I need to talk on the radio, one of these come with me. In this kit right here, I have roll-up J-pole antenna, a couple quarter wave antennas, tri-band antennas. I have extra batteries, like AA batteries, AAA batteries. I have AA battery packs and AAA battery packs. The great thing about the VX series and the FT60 series, the batteries are interchangeable. So I can take a battery from my VX 170 if my FT60 is dead and pop it in there, vice versa, or I can just use my AA battery pack for both of them. And again, my VX6, I have the extra battery packs, and I have a AAA battery pack for that as well. AAA battery pack, I'm not a big fan of. That's like a last resort. I absolutely have no more batteries left, and that's what I would use then. Other than that, also a car charger, and I have, because the VX3R can be, well, it technically charges through the AC port in your wall. So what I have is a cheap Baofeng UV3R, which is basically the same model. Actually, I'll hold two of them together here. So here's your VX3R. Here's your Baofeng UV3R. They look very similar in the body style and everything. I can tell you this one weighs a little bit more and has a lot more capability and everything. However, This right here comes with a charger that you can use for USB. So what I have is one of these in there as well. So if I need to, I can charge up this battery on this while I'm talking, and then have another battery for here. Both batteries are interchangeable as well. So just in case any of you are interested, again, they look very similar, much more capability, 2-meter 440, both of them. This has wide receive, so you pick up everything to the 900 megahertz range and all that, and get to hear all the state police and all that wonderful stuff. But I have both of these inside that bag, so that way I can use the USB charger to recharge through this one to use on this one, and or if I want to use it on this one, I can as well. But just something fun to know in case any of you are interested in it. The price range for the VX3R was around $150, and the price range for the UV3R was around $29.99. So if anyone's interested in a nice small compact radio, those two are great options. Again, I go with the VX3R. That's my baby as well. That's one of the little ones. I actually have the VX3R in my lunch bag, and if you guys don't believe me and someone wants to call me out on it, I'll go grab my lunch bag right now and pop it open and show you that I keep one in there just for fun. But so my addiction to handhelds, again, has led me down a slippery path to running out of space and collecting all these wonderful things. However, I have yet to have a problem where I've been somewhere without a radio and or been somewhere without power. So I like to think that's good. All my radios over here, I have extra batteries for them and or accessories for them as well. So while a lot of these might not be fully charged right now, or the batteries might not be in them, I do have the batteries separate. And some of them, actually, what I do is, because you notice a lot of batteries that have a turn knob to start or to turn the radio on tend to have a little bit of drainage of battery. So what I like to do is, in between the battery or where you put the battery on, so if I can, I'll just show you on this one right here. This one comes off pretty easy. So where you disconnect the battery, or actually, why don't I just show you on this? So where you disconnect the battery from the radio, I usually put a thin little piece of just clear plastic bag in there, then put the radio on. And what that does is not make any connection between the metals, so there's hopefully no drainage. And when I go to turn the radio on after a while, it still works fine. I found a lot with my Ocean KGUV8D, did that a lot. And after popping that plastic in there, it's fine for at least 6 months to a year. And normally there'll be drainage after a couple of weeks, so very fine with that. And one little thing, of course, I know we've talked about this before, but with the Baofeng radios, you guys order them extended life batteries. I know a bunch of you have already seen this before, but those of you have not, and those of you on YouTube that are watching, you see this extended life battery that goes on your Baofeng UV5R. Don't be fooled, okay? Baofeng, while it is a Chinese company, they do have good batteries, and then there are knockoff batteries. So a good battery from Baofeng, or a real 4,000 milliamp battery, would be the model BL-5L. Now, as you can see right here, this is BL-5, and if you can't see it, I'm sorry, but that's what it says, BL-5. So there's no L after it. So after doing a little research and everything and looking, I have the real ones here. This is a BL-5L. Okay, after doing some research, I found out that the BL-5s were actually fake batteries. And what they were doing was, or as I was told, putting a metal nut or bolt in it to give it weight to make it feel like a 4,000 milliamp battery. Well, I didn't believe it, but after one of these batteries died on me, I figured, well, I'm going to crack it open and give it a try. And well, after cracking it open, this is the nut that was found in it. Okay. Glued right to the back of this 1,800 milliamp battery-ish, if it ever lasted that long. So don't be fooled. If you're going to get a battery, make sure you get a reputable one. That's BL-5L. BL-5L on the battery, and or get it from a trusted Baofeng site. Watch out when you're buying off Amazon. There are a lot of ripoffs out there. eBay is even worse. Okay, so if you see one of these for $7.99 or $8.99, chances are you're probably getting a ripoff. The good ones go for around $14 to $17 for the 4,000. And I'm sure you could probably find one cheaper somewhere. And if you do, let me know, because I'd like to buy a couple more. So be on the lookout for that. BL-5L are the ones you want, not the BL-5. stay away from those. Now, let's see. I don't think there's any more that I could bore everyone with about radios. You're all very knowledgeable about how they work on push to talks and all that. So I guess I'm
Brian,
not going to talk about that. Yes.
Brian, I have a question. For emergencies, most emergencies are using the 440s and the 2 meter, and aren't they?
Well, around here, the reason why we're so prevalent on 2 meters because we have the PayPal radar system down the Cape. But pretty much anywhere else you go in the world, anywhere in the U.S., I should say, it's pretty 440 prevalent. So I guess it would all depend on the repeater. If we needed, well, if there was an emergency around here and we needed the Paxton repeater, we'd be on 2 meters. And if something happened with that and they were on the backup 440, you'd be on 440. So I guess it would really all depend. You could use a 6 meter repeater for emergencies if you had to. You could use a 10 meter repeater for emergencies if you had to, really. I guess it kind of all depends. You can use an HF radio for emergency purposes if you had to. I guess I like the local aspect of communications of it. Let's face it, on a 2 meter 440 radio, unless it's digital, you're not going to be talking all over the world. You're going to be talking to a local area. Simplex, you're going to get even shorter. But the thing I love about the analog as opposed to digital is analog is always going to be here. Whether, digital goes down, the internet goes down, phone lines are cut, whatever it may be, your analog waves are still going to be there in the air. And if you can find a way to transmit, they're going to get to and from somewhere. So I guess that would be my safe bet, and that is that I like to think more local first. I have my HF set up, talked on 10 meters. I've talked and made communications and had fun with it, but I like the local aspect of it. So all my radios are programmed around for my general area of surrounding public service, the hospital I work at, along with many, many repeaters up and down the East Coast in case I go anywhere. And then what I like to do is, I'm sure many of you like to do if you listen to public service, in my truck, I'll flip through town to town, whatever town I'm in. I'll have a radio, I'll have a frequency set for whatever town I'm in, and then one set for whatever town I'm going to be going in. So I like to know what's going on. And that's actually helped me a couple times listening to accidents, road blockages, and all that stuff. So communication wise, 2 meter 440, that's where my heart lies. And I think that's where it's going to be for a little while. And I enjoy it. My public service events, Boston Marathon was the first public service event I ever did. And I was a ham for all of 4 months at that time, and had no knowledge of anything other than how to program a Baofeng radio by hand. And I got through it. And well, not this year, but hopefully next year, the Boston Marathon, we'll be doing that again and get some more public service events out there and really get to enjoy my 2 meter 440. But now that I've talked your ear off for almost a half an hour, I don't think I have any more to say. That I'm not going to round about and talk again. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'd love to answer it.
Brian?
Please feel free. Go ahead, Jerry.
So I have an FT60. I'm a Yaesu guy too. So I've got a couple of, VX150s. What I find on the FT60 is the drain. If I don't use the radio for 2 weeks, the battery's dead. Do you have any issues with that radio? You probably use it too much, so you don't run into that. But I use the VX150 on 2 meters all the time.
So I have not had any problems. All the batteries that I've gotten, that I've received, have all been authentic Yaesu. So I have not, they've all been the 1400 milliamp battery, and I have yet to have any problem. I've gotten down as low as 6.2 and was still able to transmit before, kind of died. So as for drainage wise, no, I can't say I've had that problem. But Jerry, I would suggest you buying the AA battery pack, 6 AA fresh batteries. You're going to get 9.6 volts out of it. And that'll last you quite a while, much better than your usual 8.4, 8.3 that you get when it's fully charged.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sorry to cut you off. But again, Jerry, like I was saying, if you just popped a little paper plastic bag or whatever, a little piece of plastic.
No, that was worth listening to everything, just to pick that in. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, Brian, do you have a VX7?
I do not have a VX7. It's the one I'm missing, the VX7. Yeah.
Yeah,
The one that got away.
I have one that I love it. It has frequencies in it for Utah, Long Island, New Jersey, and everywhere I've lived. So, but it has 80 memories. The other question I want to ask is, what do you think of repeater book used on your phone?
Well, when I do, when I use Chirp, I basically use Chirp unless I have to use Baofeng or any of the RT systems. Chirp is my main one for programming these radios. Probably should have said that. I don't use the repeater book for it. I just kind of go on the internet. But repeater book is like, you know how you can go in, you can actually pull it right out from, you can import from the listing that they have, the repeater directory and all that. I don't really go in there. I kind of do it more manual. And now that I've been doing it so long, I have everything all basically laid out. So the files I have on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you're traveling, like, when I went to visit my daughter in St. George, I used repeater book because I haven't the vaguest idea where the repeaters were in that area, especially as they use a lot of chains of repeaters through the mountains. And, it looks at your location and it gives you all the repeaters in the area, up to 25 miles. So it's very useful. It's an app, an Android app. It must be on an iPhone too, but I find it useful. Perhaps if you're really only staying in this area, or in eastern Massachusetts, you can remember them all, or you have them all on your HT anyway.
Well, I have thank you. Like I was saying, I've been programming them so long on Chirp now that I have them by state. So I have Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts, basically where I go. And I mean, I'm not going to put in Las Vegas frequencies, obviously, if I'm not going to Las Vegas. But when I travel up to, Maine or something, I'll put the frequencies in. And actually, some of these radios actually have a couple of the main frequencies in there because we travel up there. Well, pre-COVID, we used to travel up there a lot, and these would be the radios we would take. So a lot of them have those frequencies in there. Yes.
Ryan, I'm sure as president of the club, you would endorse the fact that there's only one frequency you need in this area.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the 146970, come on. I mean, you don't need anything else. And I was actually able to hit the repeater from what is that? I want to say this right. In Maine, the Piscataqua Bridge.
Piscataqua, yes, the bridge over.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
If you're from Oklahoma, it's Piscataqua. If you're from around here, it's Piscataqua.
Piscataqua, right. With the great Boston accent. So I was able to hit the repeater from there, 50 watts, absolutely on a
right over the bay.
Quarter wave antenna. Yep. That worked out very well. And everyone knows the repeater coverage on that thing is phenomenal. So again, 2-meter 440, with that repeater, I mean, everyone knows, everyone who's been on ham radio and on that repeater long enough, you've talked to people from New York, New Hampshire, sometimes up in Maine, all depends on propagation and everything. And some, we've had some great QSOs on that thing. So yes, I agree, Mike. Only one frequency we really need in there. Any other questions, comments, concerns, anything?
Comments. If you look at my screen background, you'll see a hemisphere of water. It's a fish tank. Not sure it has any fish in it. That's 3 VX7s underwater at a ham fest. Quite possibly the Hamvention in Dayton at 2002 or 2003. And I shared the global link to that image on some dude's website in the chat. So if you look at the chat, if you bring up the chat sidebar on Zoom and click on the link, you too can own a picture of 3 VX7s underwater. I'm wondering if it's 2002, before I was even at Dayton, because in 2003, the screen backgrounds were set to red, green, and blue respectively for the 3 HTs to maximize the pretty.
Well, I like the, especially that they're silver. Those are the unique ones to get. I have a VX5 that's silver, and that's sitting over there with so much dust on it, you can't even tell it's silver, which I love. So that's good. Thank you, Alan, for that. That's an awesome.
I misspoke. The one part of the URL does say VX7S. So yeah, it's the silver, not the R, the black.
Someone had a question right after Alan's comment.
Yeah, question. Hi, John,
Hey, John.
KB1BXY. Hi, Brian. Can you talk a little bit about antennas for the, especially for the Yaesu radios? The really short ones, the ones that look like they're 2 or 3 inches high, the medium height, and the full length. Which ones do you prefer for the Yaesu radios? Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, John. So you have your little stubby antennas and everything along the lines of something like this. This is a Nagoya NA805 right here. Nagoya NA805, and I'm sorry if you can't see it. Little stubby antenna. Honestly, I've had good luck with this antenna, and I've had 3 that I have not done very well with. And I remember Jim N1EKO had a little stubby antenna, and we were in his kitchen and able to get on the repeater, and it sounded perfect from his kitchen. So stubby antennas, these little guys right here, I do own a couple, but these are not anything that I consider something I use regularly. Even on my little radios, I still keep the regular antenna that it comes with, but I got a good deal on this one. I think I paid $9 for it online. Someone was selling it on eBay, and I got a couple other ones cheap, but not really anything that I rely on. Then of course you have your regular Nagoya 701, which is where's my Nagoya 701? Here it is, Nagoya 701, and that's your regular, just small 7 3/4 or 8-inch antenna, however you want to look at it, which is what I usually use for a lot of my radios around here is my Nagoya 701s. They're great. And then you have the Nagoya 771, which is your basic, grab one off the wall here, your basic long quarter wave antenna here, 2-meter 440. And then of course, if you have your Baofeng or your tri-bands or whatever, you can get your 2-meter, your 440 and 220 antennas. But I always keep a couple extra quarter wave antennas. As you saw inside my kit, I have 2 or 3 in there, along with 1 extra 701, 2 extra regular stubby antennas that come stock with the radios, and then I keep 1 little stubby antenna just in case as a backup. But my go-to antenna would be my Nagoya 701, because I've learned even on the public service events that quarter wave antenna, while it does do great, if you have the space for it, sitting on your hip or walking around in a crowd, it gets in your way a lot. So, I mean, if you're stationary somewhere and you're just kind of sitting back, relaxing on your quarter wave antenna, it's perfectly fine, but it kind of gets a little cumbersome when you're actually trying to do something for a public service wise.
Ron, this is a black VX7 with a 6-meter stub on the top.
Yeah, that's the stock antenna that it came with.
Right. I have a
Looks like
longer one, but when I leave it on the shelf, I leave the stock antenna with the 6-meter stub on the top. This has about 80 full memories, and that's, as I mentioned, various parts of the country. So
see, what I love about the 7 too, Adrian, is it started coming out with those little digital lettering as opposed to the big numeric. As you can see when I turn the light on here, you see the numeric number style writing on it.
yeah.
Yeah, so yours has like the little tiny fine print. Am I correct? Like little fine.
Yeah,
print
except
writing.
that you can enlarge it, but then you can't have an upper and a lower.
Right. You do.
2 bands. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is one thing I love about
the other thing is they're expensive. I mean, this was 350 used.
Yes.
Several years ago.
I found that the 7s, anyone who has one just doesn't want to let it go. Does not want to let it go. The 7s, for some reason, everyone just seems to love holding on to the 7s, and I can completely understand why. The VX series, in my opinion, is just phenomenal. Everything from the 1 all the way up to the 8. They have the 8D, the 8G. I have the 8GR, which is built in APRS and GPRS and altimeter, all that wonderful stuff in it and everything. And the radio is great. I paid a lot. It's kind of sad when you think about it. I paid more than a car payment for it, and the thing just sits there collecting dust. But but
one thing I might mention, back a few months ago when we had our breakfast net, I was using this and I was talking with it, like about a foot away, and nobody could hear me. Dan will remember that. And I realized with the VX7, like the Baofengs, you have to basically put your face right on the thing and talk into it.
Yeah, so,
do you find that on some of the other?
I do, and the reason why is because the VX series are all waterproof, or water resistant, waterproof, however you want to call it. It's not really an IPX67 rating or whatever. But behind every speaker mic, behind the speaker, even in the speaker mics for the waterproof radios, because all the VX series all screw into the top, there's actually a little plastic or rubberish foam behind it. So behind the speaker mic, there's a little actual rubber piece. So it's kind of acting like a little, well, it's to keep the water out really. But what I had to do was actually on my 170 and 177, on one pair of them, because I have two pairs. On one pair of them, I actually went in, took the front of the radio off, and pulled off the little plastic piece, a little rubberish piece. Just, I mean, it's tiny. It's about that big, but it's just enough to cover the hole. But it makes the muffled sound. So if you ever hear anyone talking, they say you sound kind of muffled when you're on the radio on that one or a VX series. It's probably because of that. Kind of gives it like a little thing. But once I took it off, it was perfectly fine. I actually discovered that out on field day one year when I was trying to talk on my 170 and it wasn't working. So I plugged the speaker mic in. It sounded perfectly fine. I mean, it was working, but they said I was sounding very low. Took the face of the radio off, took off that little plug, and it sounds perfect. Now, it's kind of like when you have a Baofeng, how you screw open the hole of the speaker mic a little bit just to let it open a little bit because it's so tiny. Just burr the hole.
Yeah, that I did.
Yeah. So it's
I
just
did
one
that
of
on my 82.
Yeah, but again, with that, with the muffled sound, Adrian, it's waterproof. But you take that thing off, you don't want to dip it in the water. I can guarantee you that. So.
Yeah, I'll leave
yes,
it on. I'll talk close.
I have been told, I have been told when I talk straight directly with just the radios, sometimes that I do sound muffled. So. But after that modification, I haven't had that problem since.
Very good.
And thank you.
Hey, Brian, a question, a couple comments, if you would. So, the question I have is, have you used any of these battery conditioners or anything like that to try to, give some extra life to a battery, to some of these handheld batteries? And if so, then what's been your experience with that?
So honestly, I haven't. Only because I think I'm just so neurotic or I don't know what you want to call it, that I've just bought in so many batteries and extra battery packs for them. I literally in my drawer down here can pull out a plastic, just so you guys don't think I'm kidding. I literally can pull up a plastic container. This thing right here is just full of either AA battery packs, backup batteries, for all different kinds of radios, TYTs, high terras, ICOMs, AA battery packs. I mean, literally, I just have so many that I guess I haven't even need to brand new Ocean ones back in the package. And if anyone has like a Ocean KG UV6 or 5, and they need a AA battery pack, feel free to let me know. I have an abundance of them, and so. But yeah, no. So Gil, no. To answer your question, no, I have not used those only because I have not found a need yet. However, what I would say, if it wasn't so expensive, I would be running off AA batteries all the time, just because the 9.6 volts. I mean, it really blew me away when I first put the 6 AA batteries in this, and I mean, it lasted me probably a month and a half of listening and casually talking. So. I make sure I keep a AA battery pack of almost all the radios I have available, except obviously my VX6, which only has a AAA battery pack, which I'd like to write them a strongly worded letter about that. But nevertheless, yeah. So, and again, if anyone needs one of the KG UV6D or 5D or 4D or 3D, I believe it covers all the way up to 2D. Anyone has one they want a battery pack for free, please let me know. I have an abundance of them.
So I've got a question. I haven't bought an HT in years, so I know originally the batteries were all, NiCad, and you had the memory issue that you had to be aware of, and then I think they went over to nickel metal hydride, and are are the new HTs using lithium phosphate now, or any?
So in my experience, if you still, well, the FT60s, even though you bought, they were still nickel metal hydride. And let's see, I'm not sure, I haven't bought any of the new Yaesu, so I really can't tell you if they switched over to lithium, but like if you buy the Baofengs and like the Anytones, those are all lithium batteries now. Basically all your Chinese radios, as I found, have come to be lithium ion batteries. And a lot of your, you know, well, actually no, because this is Yaesu, the VX6 actually has a lithium ion battery. Is this? Yeah, this is lithium ion for the VX6R. So that is lithium ion. So I guess the bigger VX series and the FT60 also run, that's not lithium ion, I can tell you that. That is nickel metal hydride. But yeah, like I said, a lot of the Baofengs, the Anytones, and the Oceans are all coming out with lithium ion batteries.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Brian, what was that little credit card radio you showed?
That was, Dan, I'm even going to dust the dust off it for you just so you can get a good view. This is the Alinco DJ C5 credit card radio. Hey, let me, I'm going to put some nice light on it. I don't know how well that's doing.
Do not look into credit card radio with remaining eye.
Yeah, the Alinco D5, CJ D5. Yeah, DJ C5. Sorry about that. 2 meter 440 dual band little radio here. And so lithium ion. Okay, this is why I love lithium ion. This was the first handheld radio I bought back in the Framingham flea market, which is in what, February? Is that February, right?
Yep.
February. Okay, so I bought this in February of 2015. I think I charged it in March of 2015. I haven't charged this since, and it still works. So you got to love your lithium ion batteries. However, one thing I have found about lithium ion is once they go, they're done. There's, your nickel metal hydride, you might get a couple, you charge it up, you might get 15 minutes out of it, 20 minutes out of it. Lithium ion, once they go, they are done. Just straight, kind of like talking on DMR, like an analog, you can be on the fringe a little bit. DMR, you're either there or you're not. So it's one thing I found. But that radio right there is has been a very good radio to me. And for the $20 that I spent, I wish I could remember the ham or meet the ham that sold that to me. He'd be very proud that that's still in even better condition than when he sold it to me, I'm sure.
And with the lithium ion, don't you have to be careful about the temperature? I mean, they don't really like operating below freezing, do they?
So I don't think any battery really likes operating below freezing. What I have found is that when you do go to use a lithium ion battery, because I do go camping in the wintertime, and I can tell you that after leaving a radio in just the cold weather, not on, that it does take a little bit to warm up to get those cells heated up again. But once it does heat up, the battery should retain most, if not all of its battery.
Yeah, I lost an iPhone battery once because I was too stupid. I was out in -5 degrees and I left the phone on, and that was bad news. The battery was never the same.
See, I try not to, well, I mean, again, depending, because I've been out in some freezing cold weather with this FT60 on, and it's still been pretty fine. But again, this isn't lithium ion, but anytime I'm out in the woods and whatever, I usually have one of the Baofengs on, and I have yet to have a problem with the lithium ion battery. Like I said, if you do take it out, you'll know, and anyone can probably attest to this. If you take it out, it's fully charged. You leave it outside for an hour in the cold weather, you go to bring it inside, turn it on. It only says 2 bars. After about 10 minutes, warms up, you'll see 3 bars again. So kind of just needs to warm up a little bit, but I have not had any problem of, not being able to fully turn it on. But then again, I mean, it's usually by my person or in a bag. So there is some buffer between this and the cold air. So if that helps.
Couple comments.
Go for it, Gil.
So just a couple comments on a couple of things that you showed. So that the little stubby antennas, I got one of those as well, and I find, I mean, you're not gonna work anything a lot with that. But really, the only time that I ever use that is when I'm doing internal site work. So in other words, they're great for if you have a local frequency that you're using at a field day site, and where everyone's right there, or if you're, if you're doing a public service event and everybody's in a very, smallish area, I mean, up into a paper clip and, get an S9, no problem, so, take advantage of the small thing with the small antenna at that point, so it's not bumping around and getting in your way. The other thing that I wanted to just throw out there is I agree with you on the Baofengs. For $30, how can you beat it? This and for an entry level, for an easy way to get into the hobby with low money, there's nothing like it. However, I've been for several years now. I've been the net control at the finish line at Boston Marathon, and I can tell you, being on the sweeps net and listening to a variety of stations, there's 24 stations on that net, and we've been on there with every type of weather thrown at these people. I can tell who's using a Baofeng and who's using something like an FT60 and who's using something like a converted Motorola. I can easily tell just by the sound. So just keep that in mind, when somebody gets right into the hobby. It's an excellent entry level radio, agreed, but just keep that in mind when you're talking about, well, let's think about what type of radio we're going to bring to like a public service event like that.
Gail, I couldn't agree more with you. And yes, you're absolutely right. From being at the marathon and with you, you definitely know who is on a Baofeng and who isn't. Especially when someone, and again, you're right, entry level radio, or even as a backup radio, you throw in your glove compartment, just kind of hope to never have to use it. And should you have to, it's great. But if you're going to get a speaker mic for it, please get a Kenwood speaker mic. Okay, stop. And everyone, this is a public service announcement to everyone out there listening here on YouTube. Stop buying the Baofeng speaker mics, okay? Get a tin can and a string if you want to have the same exact sound. Please, for the love, stop buying the Baofeng speaker mics, okay? They sound horrible, okay? Bad enough that you have to basically scream into this thing, or the newer generation is not so bad, but first, second generations of the UV5R, you basically had to scream into it because you sounded so low into repeater or simplex. But speaker mics, and Gil, you're absolutely right. And again, which is why I say my public service, my workhorse, my FT60. Gil, you have one, great radios, and yes, I couldn't agree more. Entry level, absolutely. For good big public service events, not so much. As a backup radio, sure, keep it. If you have nothing else to use, go for it. But if you do have something else for a public service, I would definitely go with something else as well. I agree with you 100% on that, Gil.
I will say that you're right on the speaker mic. Whoops, sorry. On the speaker mic, you're right. I found that the Bridgecom little speaker mic works extremely well, and it's like $25.
Well, how are you getting those, through eBay or?
eBay, Amazon sells them.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, sorry, Dan. Go ahead. I think he was asking you anyway.
I just got mine from Bridgecom. Anytime you see Bridgecom at a flea market, at an event like Nearfest or Boxborough, it'll be Marlboro now. Bridgecom's there. They usually have a special on them. If you go on their website, you'll get a special. I buy these 4 or 5 at a time because I give them to people who have Baofengs and they use their Baofeng speaker mic. I'll say, don't do that anymore. I'll send you one. I think I sent one to Selena. I know that because they sound just like exactly that.
Do they make one for the FT60?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do they make one for the Yaesu FT60?
They do. They absolutely do make one for the FT60. And I have one that's exactly the same as this right here for the FT. Actually, nope, this is my Kenwood 2-pin. So here's your Kenwood. I mean, your regular Yaesu. Your Baofeng. Here's one of my little tiny ones that I have. JDI. Many of them out there kind of all go down the same assembly line with a different name on them. But the Baofeng one's the one you're going to want to stay away from. But yes, Vic, they do have one. It looks a bunch of them actually. You can get them in all different styles, shapes, sizes, and all that. The ones I like to have are these tiny little ones right here. I have one that's exactly like this. But one thing I did like want to point out, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, and if you don't, here's a little lesson for you. Should you be doing public service event or any event, or even if you just want to have your radio on and you don't want your significant other to know while you're sitting there listening to us talking or having a meeting on repeat or whatever, most speaker mics have a port for speakers, like earplugs that you would put in. Now, should you try and put in, it's a monoplug, so only one side of the speakers are going to work. So what I normally do at public service events is I'll have my FBI earpiece in one side, which I'll have listening to the radio, and then the one or transmit, and then the one I'm going to talk on will be the Secret Service earpiece, sorry. And then the other one I listen to will be a regular speaker mic hooked right here with a regular earpieces that you would use for your iPod, your iPhone, whatever, plugged right into the bottom here. So a lot of the speaker mics have a little port in them so you can actually plug headphones into. And I'm looking for a set of headphones right now to see if I have an extra set floating around that I can show you.
Yeah, that or earbuds.
Earbuds, right. That or earbuds, same thing. So you can actually use this. And what I've done, and I can't, of course, my shack is a mess right now. Lord. Oh, here it is. So this little piece right here is actually a Bluetooth receiver. Sorry, yes. So a converter. So it converts this into Bluetooth. So plug this into here, turn this on, link it up to my earpods. There you go. Now this is Bluetooth. I don't even have to have a wire connecting it, but you can't transmit through it. They do sell Bluetooth speakers that you can, or transmission or speaker mics, I guess, Bluetooth speaker mics that you can get. They're like 55, 60 bucks. Motorola is very good with them. Motorola's are a lot better than I've seen the Baofeng ones, but they do have them. Not necessarily something I would use. I wouldn't really trust it because then it's another battery you got to charge. And emergency communication wise, if you don't want your stuff dying as you're talking. But so just so everyone knows, you can hook a pair of regular stereo ear speakers or your little MP3 player speakers into the bottom of this. One side will work, so you can still listen to everything and still transmit through the speaker mic when you want to.
Go along with Dan was saying, Bridgecom's got a big sale on right now. So if anybody was interested, go to their site.
Sorry again, please repeat.
What's that, Victor?
What was the name of the site you just mentioned?
Bridgecom. They advertise in QST quite a bit, Victor, but.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So there's a variety of ranges of accessories and everything you can get for radios. I have skins for my Baofengs and stuff like that, little silicone skins that go over to protect the radio. You can get external antennas. You can put little stickers on above your call sign if you want to. Extended battery lives, Secret Service earpieces. So this is actually my Marathon radio right here. This is the one I like to use. So I have a couple of these. Little converter pieces. The accessories for radios, I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, it limits them. You're going to need a speaker mic, an earpiece, extended antenna, or your quarter wave antenna, your little stubby antenna, your 8-centimeter antenna, or the 8-inch antenna, whatever you want to go with, whatever's comfortable for your situation, whatever you need to work for, or whatever you need the radio for. So customizable.
When I first started,
one thing I would say, sorry, Dan. Oh, just before you do that, one thing I would suggest to people, emergency communication wise, I have a couple of them, roll up J-pole antennas. Things are phenomenal. You can get an SMA adapter if you need a SMA female, whatever, for whatever your radio needs. But I would definitely suggest everyone getting a roll up J-pole antenna. Thing is phenomenal. I have a couple of them, styles. Just throw the thing up in a tree when you're outside. I do it at my camp. Throw it up in a tree, pull a little rope over, tie it down, sit the radio right there, and I'm good to go. And you got all that extra antenna. And I think they're anywhere from $20 to $30. You can pay more depending on where you got. I bought mine a couple years ago. Some guy out of Detroit, I believe, the antenna guy or something like that. eBay, $20 for the 10-foot with the 10-foot coax, and then it was $20 for, I don't know, it was some prices, but if I think of it, I'll send Dan the link or the email and have him send it out to everyone. But Dan, go ahead with what you're going to say.
Well, you talk about adding accessories to your Baofeng. When I first got started on George's Old Timers Net and on the 2-meter thing, all I had was Baofengs. I had one in the car with a mag mount antenna, and I had already purchased my base antenna for here in the shack, which is a Diamond 510, which is a 17-foot long 9 dB gain antenna. I hooked a Baofeng to it, and that's what I did for almost a year before I bought an actual base station. So they're very versatile. But like you said, you don't want to drop them.
Yeah. And Dan, I was going to get into that next. That's perfect how you have it hooked up to your external antenna outside, which again, if we lost power, let's say you lose power or whatever, you obviously, you can't get your amp up to get your radio running. So you hook up your radio, you get a little adapter, you can hook up your radio to your external antenna. There you go. You're still pushing 5 watts. And with the repeater around here, I mean, the Paxton repeater, the footprint of that thing is just phenomenal. So yes, exactly, Dan. Yes. Yep. Your SO239 to SMA, is that female? SMA male? Yep. SMA female. Okay.
Yeah, this is the reverse SMA, but I have another one over here for any of my Yaesus.
Yeah, see that, and I have the same thing. I have the connectors that I keep inside my bag, inside my drawer here, inside my truck, inside my actual shed that I have his actual shack, which I know Gil laughs every time I say that. My shed is an actual shack. Yes, half of it's converted. But yeah, no, and again, out there I run my handheld. So there's 3 handhelds out there that I run out there that I can have on hooked to external antennas that are outside. That same thing, just by the adapter. So if Dan were ever to lose power, he could hook one of his Baofengs right up to the antenna there, and there you go. He's pushing 5 watts out of his big 17-foot 90 dB gain antenna. And that I would suggest for everyone who has a handheld and external antenna, absolutely get the adapters for it if you don't already have them. Even if you were stuck in your car, you broke down or whatever, you have a handheld in there, you could hook that right up to the car, truck, whatever your antenna, and there you go. So if battery ever dies, you still. Go ahead, Jerry.
I do have the adapter. I've got a little brick in the car too. But I'm looking out my shack window and I can see the lights of the tower, so I can hit the HT probably even with that N7.
You could do that 0.1 of a watt and still get it, Jerry. Good for you.
You could do it with a dummy load.
Yeah, you could do it with that little stubby antenna I have that doesn't really work all that well.
Hey, Brian.
Yep.
I just
yes,
put
sir,
I just put an endorsement for a little smaller than your palm-sized Bluetooth transmitter that we've been using in our living room for over 3 years to run headphones for when the bride is watching television. We leave it plugged into a power supply, so I don't know how long the battery lasts, but it's not one of these things where it unpairs every 5 minutes and you're tearing your hair out and all that stuff. So I put the link and the endorsement in the chat sidebar, and submitted for your. It may be stone knives and bearskins. I don't know what's happened to Bluetooth technology in 3 years, but I would buy it again. Every time I look at it, I think I should probably buy another one on general principles.
Well, thank you for that, Alan. And buy another one just because of the principle. That's just your ham radio self-talking. That's why I have 200 radios, and Greg's house and garage is full of radios because we just needed that one more. So
the late Bill N1RKB of Westford taught me whenever he went to a ham fest, he'd buy a couple of UHF connectors of one gender or another and just throw it in a box. So he always had a few things like elbows and barrel connectors and stuff.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, that's I feel like we all do that. We kind of see the little thing and we go there. Or actually, Ron, KB1LOU gave me the best advice about flea markets. Or you go there and you didn't know you need something until you saw something you didn't have. I didn't know I needed it until I saw it. So that happens a lot when we go there. But thank you, Alan. Any other questions?
Yeah, Brian.
Herb, go ahead.
Any idea for a good earpiece for the Motorola XTS 2500i?
Ooh, I'm going to refer you to Gil, WK1H on that. He is much more of a Motorola person than I am.
I have that same radio, but I don't have any accessories for it. Like I don't have a speaker mic or anything like that for it. So I can't really comment on it, unfortunately.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Herb, I know those speaker mics go for a good amount of money too. So good luck if you find one cheap. Hang in there for you.
Yeah, generally, if you're looking on, if you're looking for one of those, you might want to look at on eBay. Look for a official Motorola. But those things you can usually find on eBay, and if not, then a flea market usually will have them. You see a ton of them up at like Nearfest, for example. Of course, we kind of need the flea markets to come back first, but you might get lucky with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Gil.
Comment?
Go ahead, comment.
That radio already is a really good radio. Sounds good. But I think the Motorola makes a headset for that radio. And I've heard somebody with the headset on it, and it was amazing how good it was. So I would go with the Motorola one.
Thank you.
Yeah, anything Motorola like that, I mean, that specific radio you have, the XTS 2500, they've upgraded since, but that used to be what all the Massachusetts State Police used to run around with, from what I understand. And they're top notch as far as everything is concerned. They're also top notch as far as price is concerned too. So, and all the accessories for them are also top notch with price as well.
That's why our 1980s vintage Motorola Micor repeater up at the site is still working.
Yeah.
The thing's built like a tank.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, and even the handhelds, a lot of most amateur radio handhelds, as the battery starts to wane off, and your power starts to wane off, your power output starts to wane off as well. So by the time the battery actually, the handheld actually quits on you, you're down to like maybe a couple 1-2 watts at most. With the Motorola, it's more like like what Brian was saying about the EMR. It's 5 watts all the way across until that thing dies. I mean, they're really good when it comes to that. But man, you're paying for it. You are paying for it for sure.
Hey Brian, this is KC10KM. I got a quick question. I assume you use your radios when you're mobile. What type of mobile antenna do you recommend?
Right now, I just have a Larson 2-meter 440. Well, I have two. One of them is a truck stake mount with an OPEC truck stake mount. It literally just fits into the truck stake of your thing, and you just bolt it down, pop the antenna on top. But they're Larson 2-meter 440. One is a magnetic, just magnetic. I screwed a little plate into the side rail of the truck, and that sticks right on there perfectly. And the other one is just the same thing, 2-meter 440 on the other side, just screws right in. Both quarter wave. I have a truck, so it's a little different from mine, and I'm limited on the height because the garage that I park in, I could reach out of my truck and touch the steel and concrete beams, so I'm a little close on that. So I have no room for a 5/8 wave on mine.
All right, thank you.
Hey, can I add something that doesn't directly add? Can I add something there?
Go for it, Alan.
My first radio was a VX5 handheld, tooling around in the car, plugged into the 12-volt charger and attached to a mag mount on the car. So I was actually using an HT dangling from the rear view as my first rig. And when I bought the HT, my Elmers made me go over to a tidbit guy at Haas Traders. And rather than just buy an adapter that went from an SMA connector to an SO239 UHF connector, they had me buy the pigtail kind that has like 6 inches of spaghetti coax between the two little screw-on things, because that way the weight of the big 239, 259 connector and all of that RG58 coax doesn't put a torsion, well, not torsion, doesn't put cantilever force on the connector on the HT. And if you have an HT that you ever think you're going to attach to a car antenna or something else, splurge and get the thing that's an adapter with some spaghetti, with 6 inches of spaghetti coax in between. John B's, what's the name? What's the name of that vendor from Connecticut?
Quicksilver.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Quicksilver sells them, among other people. Thanks, Vic. So let me just pass along the tip from my Elmers. Don't break the antenna connector off your HT by attaching it to something that's really heavy when you can put a little something extra, splice a little extra something in. Thanks.
Yep. So just to show everyone what Alan's talking about is, you have your SO239 SMA here with a bunch of extra cord, and then you can also get it with your SMA. Well, this is hooked up to a BNC, SMA to BNC. But let's see. So this is what Alan's talking about. So this part would screw direct. So they have the SMA to SO239, which kind of looks like this. So it screws directly into the top of the radio. And this is what Alan's talking about. So if this sits right here and you have your coax right here, your coax is constantly going to be pushing down and moving this all around. Whereas if you have it hooked up to, you have a bunch of extra leeway where your radio can sit right here and it doesn't put too much pressure here on your connector. So this is what Alan's talking about, how this sits directly into here. So
I think we got a buffering problem.
using a little bit of space in between it. Yeah, you saying something?
You were dropping out for a moment.
You were breaking up, Brian.
Fine business. Thank you very much for the show and tell.
Thank you, Alan. Dick, what were you saying?
You were breaking up for a while. You had a buffering problem there. You stalled out. Couldn't hear what you were saying.
Okay, yeah, you're breaking up a little bit yourself, Dick. I don't know if it's mine or yours, but let's see. I've talked for over an hour and 15 minutes now, so I'm pretty.
Yeah. Whoops.
Here it goes.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, and he dropped off. Whoopsie.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, wherever you may be.
Okay, I'm back. Can everyone see me now?
Hey.
Yes, now you're back online.
All right. I don't know what happened, but so you guys saw the thing, so thank you for that. And yeah, Dick, I heard you say I was a little spotty there for a little bit, so I do apologize. But thank you guys. That's my presentation. I've had you guys listen to me enough for the past hour and 15 minutes about why I have an addiction to ham radio handhelds, and thank you very much for being very receptive and letting me get through this. So thank you very much, everyone. I do appreciate it, and it was quite fun. And if anyone has any questions and any radios they don't want, feel free to send them to me.
Thank you.